Amazing. Well, these are really precious moments for our church, for your life, for our city. No doubt about it. Whenever followers of Jesus decided that they want to take whatever God has done inside of their heart or inside of their life and let it pour out over their community, it's changed the world. And I'm just so proud that we're even at this point as a church community. We're positioned, we've been so generous for so long, and we've been so clear in our mission and our vision, and we haven't wavered from it. And even though there's a ton of things we could give our attention to or our resource to, I love the fact that we've stayed so clear about our mission and our vision. And here we are today, able to take ground, I guess as it were, doing something that we haven't done for many, many years, be able to purchase a whole nother facility, a whole nother space. But hopefully you've heard over the last month or more that this isn't about a facility or a space. This is so much bigger than that. And we have a chance to continually carry on the mission of Jesus to the next generation. And which is why we're talking about this at Vision Sunday, because when I look at some of this beautiful old footage here of different times in our nation's history where people are going, something happened and it changed the fabric of our culture, and it changed society, and it changed what was happening. As much as things began internally, inside the heart of Jesus followers and Christians, eventually it didn't stay there, and it can never stay there. Eventually it became something that turned outward and began to, their vision looked outward. Their vision looked beyond their four walls of a church building and beyond even the security of their own life. The moment Christians come alive with the things of God, it's like their vision goes outward, and they begin to see the city around them and begin to see the needs around them and go, how can my faith in Jesus actually cause there to be difference in the world in which we live? And so you guys live in the same world as me. We turn on the television every day, open our phones, and we can hear all the broken things about the world, all the terrible things and the tensions and the pressures. And you don't even have to see the news for that. You might just wake up and see it in your own home, you know? And it's a very real tension. And the reason vision is so important is because to be a follower of Jesus, it means your life isn't just at the mercy of what is happening in and around you. It means your life is ultimately connected to the God of heaven who is for you. And if God is involved in something, all bets are off. And so it's so natural for a Jesus follower to be a person with vision, to not just settle for how things are, but to be stirred with faith and momentum and courage for how things could be. And so why do we have a vision as a church? We have a vision as a church so that our city can have a vision of God. And I want you to really hear this, because we can easily have a vision for us and what we want and our needs and our lives. And that's one thing, and you should have vision for your life. But we have a vision collectively because we are believing on the other end of our generosity and the other end of our initiatives and our ministry. It gives the chance for our city to have a vision of God. For our city to actually be like, if this is what God is like, if you Christians are any reflection of the heart of the God you talk about, and you guys are not just about, how do I create a safe space for me and a comfortable place for me, but actually are radically generous in the way you serve and the way you give and the way you love people. If that is a reflection of what your God is like, then I think we're going a long way into giving our city a genuine, practical picture of what God is like. And so I've invited us to be people of vision, to not just settle for how things are and to try, how do we create a comfortable experience for ourselves? But we must be visionary. We must be people who see, what does God have on his heart for the future? What does God have for our community? What does God have for the next generation? And this really, let's be real, it's really at the heart of Jesus when we talk about being people that are wanting to do something great and to let what God has done in my life be something that is then, it overflows into practical works of generosity and love. Why do we do that? Because this is the Jesus thing. It was Jesus himself that said, right at the start of Matthew's gospel, Jesus said, we're to let our light shine before others so that others may see your good deeds and then glorify your Father in heaven. Right, so it's when people see, you got to hear me about this. This isn't about you and I getting some special badge from God saying you're a good little Christian, good job for you being generous. No way. Jesus is like, when you let your light shine and you do that practically through good deeds, like literally as an overflow of what God has done in your life, then what can I do with my life? What are the deeds that I can do that God would consider good? It says when people see that, They may do what? They may look up. They may glorify your God in heaven. And so make no mistake about it, our heart and vision for what we're asking to give towards and we're asking to build together, is that somehow it would cause our light to shine. So the Sunshine Coast and beyond can be like, look up and be like, there is a God who is real and a God who is for that. Can you imagine if that was to happen? Now, over the last month, we've been tracking through this amazing story from our Old Testament, the story of Nehemiah. And if you're just joining us for the first time, you feel free to jump on our YouTube and have a listen to any of the previous messages from that. But the short version is Nehemiah lived around 450 years before Christ, and he was a child of the Jewish exile when the Babylonians came and completely demolished Jerusalem, demolished Israel. They took hundreds of thousands of them to exile in Babylon. And they were there for a whole generation. And for 70 years, they were their prisoner in Babylon. And then there's a new king that came in who's a bit more tolerant of other cultures and religions. And so people started to slowly creep back to where they came from. And so Nehemiah, being a Jew, was like, he'd only heard stories about what Jerusalem was like in its glory days. And he finally gets back there himself, and Jerusalem is a mess. It's demolished, the buildings destroyed, the walls are destroyed, everything's burnt with fire, and people had learnt to live in this decrepit, heap of burning ash and rubble. And Nehemiah gets there, and God just broke his heart for what he saw. And that's where, to be honest, that's where any great awakening begins. It begins here, not out there. It begins in the heart of people who put their trust in God, where God breaks people's heart. And not only was Nehemiah's heart broken, it then gave him a vision for the city. And he gathered all the people together and like, are you seeing what I am seeing? This place is a mess. And we've got to do something about it. We've got to clean it up. Let's build it. And all the people, it's like the fog lifted. And they were like, you're right. We do need to do something. This is what vision does. It causes you and I to have the fog lifted from our complacency and for us just settling for how things are. And it's begin to have vision and confidence. And maybe we could build something great that gives God glory. And so they got busy rebuilding the wall, and it was amazing. The people got together, people from different careers, different industries, different financial positions. Everyone did their part. And can I say that's so important for us as a church today? We've all got this opportunity to give towards this. This isn't just for a select few who might feel they're in a unique position to be extraordinarily generous, and as much as some of you are in that position, this is for every single one of us who follow Jesus to say, from the means I'm in right now and what I have right now, this is my chance to bring my offering to God and say, I am trusting you not only with my life, but I'm trusting the future of our culture, the future of our generation to you. And we all have a part to play. I love the fact even in our kids' environments today, the kids are coming ready to be generous and to give. This is right at the core of our Christian faith, that we would build something great for the glory of God. And so Nehemiah and his generation got busy building these walls, and as they built it, this is amazing to me. They built it in 52 days. They built a whole city wall in 52 days. And you know how many days it has been since we first got the chance to walk into that facility, and then to find where we are now today to be able to build it? You know how many days it's been? I actually don't know. Should have done the math of that. That could have been amazing. I will check. It's about 52 days. It was in June. What month are we in? Yeah, it was the end of June. Was it? Anyway, dang it. Could have been poetic. Anyway, needless to say, this is how it went for Nehemiah's people. They built it, and then after the wall was built, that's pretty amazing, 52 days. It says, when all our enemies heard about this, right? They can't believe they built this wall. All the surrounding nations were afraid, and they lost their self-confidence because they realized that this work had been done with the help of our God. And this is exactly what I guess we are believing with all our hearts right now, is that we're not trying to build something so people are like, wow, you guys are the best, or you guys are amazing, or how amazing you guys are. Like, this is a chance for us to practically let our light shine. So our city may see our good works, but then, not look at us, but then to go, God, like, if he's real, is he for us? Does he indeed love us this way? And I love the fact that when Nehemiah built this wall, it had a direct impact not just on his people, but had a direct impact on the surrounding nations. And in the same way, our vision of the church is that we would have a direct impact on our surrounding community. With all the pain and brokenness and loss of vision This is our chance for Christians to be like, we have vision for you. God has vision for you, and we mean it. This building wasn't a testament to their own ingenuity or their own capacity for strength. It was a testament to the surrounding nations of God's faithfulness and God's grace. And in the same way, we want this facility not to be a testimony to our ingenuity and to our generosity. We want this to be a testimony to God's goodness and God's grace. Yes, are we going to see many, many people fed? Absolutely. And even in the tough years that are potentially ahead, we want to be right in the middle of that, right in the middle of the rubble, saying we are for you, we're for the coast, we're on your side, God is for you. And as much as we're going to believe for a lot of practical help, it's not just social reform we're believing for. We're also believing for a spiritual awakening. It's not just social reform. We're believing that somehow in the middle of our generosity and our love to our city, it wouldn't just be some political revolution or social transformation or some kind of economic turnaround, but we'll stop and be able to say something changed spiritually in the temperament of the Sunshine Coast, that many hearts were awakened to the reality of Jesus Christ, and many lives ultimately found hope in the God of heaven. So why do I say that? Because our vision for this building is not about a building. Right? Our prayer is that the surrounding nations, as we saw with Nehemiah, would become aware of our God. And the reason this is such a big deal is because when people become aware of God, what is that to our current community? If you talk to your everyday Australian right now, talk to your everyday person in Nambour, and you bring up the issue of Jesus or God, you're going to have a few different, debates there and conversations, and maybe you're new to church here this morning, and you're like that. If we were to ask you, what do you think about God? You're like, well, I'm not actually too sure. But this is what God's plan's always been, right? It's always been God's love that has unlocked people's hearts. No doubt about it. The way God, we talk about the way to a man's heart is through his what? His stomach, but God's got like the next level on that. It's always been his love that has always unlocked people's hearts. And so the greatest way to any generation has had a great spiritual awakening is because they've come face to face with the goodness of God. They've come face to face with God's incredible love for them. And I'm telling you, nothing reflects God's love and God's heart towards humanity than when Christians are generous and selfless with their community. Nothing speaks louder to a city than when those who say that they put their trust in Jesus Christ outwork that through incredible generosity. I mean, you think about it in your life, what speaks most loudly to you? Right? Someone can say anything they want to you, but is it not true that it's their incredible generosity or their kind acts towards you that would open their heart to the message? And so it's one, right? So it's one thing for us to get up here and say it. It's a whole other thing for a church to go out and do it, to let our good works shine before man that they may glorify their Father in heaven. So I'm conscious of this when we have a facility like we're believing to fit out and to build and to purchase. This is a practical way of us saying to our city, we love you, God loves you, and that their hearts would open to him. And this is why, this is our vision as a church. Our vision is to be a church. This is literally our vision, to be a church that loves, like Jesus. It's literally our vision. Our vision isn't to build buildings and to fill services. That's part, that comes within it. Our vision is that as a church, if we see the future and we see what we could be, that we would be a church that carries on the mission of Jesus. Now, we're not called to die for humanity. Jesus did that, but we are called to love humanity. Okay, so this is our chance to love like Jesus. And if we do that, I think this, if we just talk practically about this facility we got, this is a very practical way of aligning with our mission so that our church could be the kind of church that those people in our city who might not yet be believers and might not yet be sure of God and might not yet be sure of what we believe and got some weird questions about our weird faith and all that stuff, but at least they go, hey, if there was ever a church I would walk into, if there was ever a faith that I'd put my trust in, it's you guys. You're a church. And even though I'm an unchurched person, I am so grateful that Nambour has the Everyday Foundation right bam smack in the middle of it. I'm so grateful that Suncoast Church exists. I'm so grateful that Suncoast Christian College exists. If it wasn't for this incredible ministry and you bunch of Christians with all your generosity and all your prayer and all your singing and all your giving and volunteering, whatever, I don't know why you go do that, but our city is a whole lot better because you guys are in it. That is a church that the unchurched loves. Okay. So imagine, like in Nehemiah's day, when they built this incredible thing really quickly, it was a miracle, and all the surrounding nations went, whoa, it's not just the Jews doing this, they're like, their God is backing them. Imagine if we were the kind of church that our surrounding communities were so impacted by what they saw in us that it changed the way they saw God. Again, imagine if on the other end of our generosity, our giving, our building, our love, and this is what our prayer is, that it would change our community's vision of what God is like. And there's no doubt about it. The way a church loves its community shapes how that community sees God. So this is our chance, guys. This is it, right now. Don't outsource it to the person sitting next to you. Don't outsource it to the person who's been in church longer than you or the person who's more fired up than you. You're a part of this church. This is our chance to practically love our community together as a community. And man, I'm so grateful for the parents in the room who've been talking to your kids about this, praying together. Chloe and I have been so hard, like trying to talk to our girls about what this day means. And they've been stealing money from one another. So it's pretty funny to watch. Noah flogged a $5 note off her big sister. And we're talking to Noah about it. She goes, I'm going to go find the people who have no money and give this to them. I'm like, well, maybe don't go ask people on Sunday, do you have no money? Do you have no money? You know. But it's so important from the get-go that like right at the heart of being a Jesus follower, one of the most practical ways we outwork this is through practical love. As we let our light shine, it causes people to look up and see Jesus. And, you know, over this whole month, we've talked about so many different historical events where this has kind of occurred. And, you know, I know the churches is something we lean to every single week. So we're often talking about great inspiration from history, but there's no doubt about it. Right from the very get-go after the resurrection of Jesus, the events even recorded in our New Testament, we see this demonstrated time and time and time again of Christians outworking their love for Jesus through very practical ways of loving their community. And so, in fact, before this message even left Jerusalem, after Jesus was resurrected and you had the first followers of Jesus there preaching this message, they went about letting people know this wasn't about them, this wasn't about their efforts, it weren't about their endeavors, this was ultimately about Jesus. And I want to just read one story today to kind of give this, I guess, to kind of tie a bow on this whole idea about how this works for us. This comes from the book of Acts. This is just after the Gospels. And this was Peter and John, who were two of Jesus' first disciples. Let's read it together. So one day, Peter and John were going out to the temple at the time of prayer at about 3 p.m. And a man who was lame from birth was being carried to the temple gate called Beautiful. And we would put there to beg every day. Now, I read that and I'm like, isn't that not a picture of our times where we can be at a place called Beautiful? We live on the Sunshine Coast, and yet here is a man lame from birth. So it's this weird dichotomy or this conflict of someone going through something incredibly difficult, but in a place that is incredibly beautiful. And don't ever let the social media fool you and I about, you know, everything's perfect here in the city. You can, you know, I've discovered we can easily bury our head in the sand and ignore some of the plight of the reality. There's so many people who live on the Sunshine Coast. And we can have our eyes in our own little bubbles and look around at our beautiful spaces we've got. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, God has given us everything for our enjoyment. But we're never to be ones who turn our eye to what reality is like for so many people who live here. We're never to be those who ignore what is going on in our neighborhoods, in our streets, in our communities. You might live in a beautiful suburb where you don't see any homelessness. You just go for one walk down the main drag where our shop front is, and you will quickly see that there's a whole part of our community that is desperate for you and I to take serious our faith and to take practically the message of Jesus to love our community, right? Because you have a lot of people who are lame from birth who sit at the gate called Beautiful. And it goes on. When he saw Peter and John, the next verse, when he saw Peter and John about to enter, he asked them for money. Now, this doesn't surprise me because we often think our community, and this is often the narrative we all have, is the answer to all of our problems is, you know, more money. And I do find that ironic because today we're obviously raising money, but this can often be the idea that a whole lot of our culture has. Just give more money to a problem, it'll solve it. And so Peter then looked straight at him, as did John. And what they said next, this is what I want us to pay attention to today because I think it sums up what we're doing. Peter and John gets his attention, you know, he's asking them for money. Here's this guy with so much practical need. And Peter looks straight at him, as did John. And this is what they said to him. 3 words. Look at us. Look at us. And if you've been a Christian for any amount of time, it's not a stretch to say that there's been, for quite a long time, the capital C church, the broader church in Australia, hasn't always been able to say these 3 words with confidence. And there's certain being a fog sometimes over the Christian witness or example in our cities and across our nation and our culture that we haven't always been able to say with confidence, hey, look at us. Like, look at us. Like, we're not perfect, but we've got an incredible message. Like, at oftentimes the church has kind of been like, maybe don't look at us right now. We kind of don't have our stuff together, right? But for far too long, I think maybe that's been our narrative. And I'm confident that it's moments like this where we get to flip that script and be able to say with confidence to our city, hey, look at us. Look at us. So my question is, what does our city see when they look at us? Do you realize what an incredible opportunity it is for us right downtown in the heart of Nambour to have a space that we will purchase literally from our own pockets as a church community, from us, from you, together. Not for us, not for our benefit, not for, this is a weird thing to say, hey, we're going to, I really want to sort of invest in something that you're not going to see the benefit of, but that's the Christian way. And it's a way of our community completely seeing God in maybe a way they have never seen. So what do they look at when they look at us? Let me ask you this. What will they conclude about what we believe? What will our community see that is different about us? What will they experience through us that they won't experience anywhere else? Will our community's hearts be touched? Will their vision be pointed upwards? And will their pain be eased? And I'm convinced that, again, it's just a building, it's just a ministry, it's just a facility, but this is a very practical way that we can say to our generation right now, hey, look this way, look at us. Because I'm convinced that the greatest way the Christian message is preached to our world, and the greatest way the hope of Jesus is made practical to our community around us isn't on some high walls or on some high pulpits where we just tell people. The greatest way the message of Jesus is spoken to our community is right in the mess, in the middle of the rubble and the pain and the anguish and the confusion. This is why I'm so proud of you as a church. You refuse to settle for just creating some little Christian bubble where you ignore the world. I love the fact that every single day we're involved in the very coalface of what is going on in our community. And to me, the idea that we get to have a permanent home that will help to house all the ministries that happen in the life of our city, that we can take the limits off, that we can increase our footprint, increase our influence. This is such a practical way of letting our city know that God is for them and that we deeply love him. And so the story goes on. He says, look at us. And down the bottom it says, so the man gave them his attention, expecting to receive something from them. And the point is this: the greatest thing that we have to give to the world is not a thing, right? And so as much as we're going to feed people and help people and clothe people and shelter people, the greatest thing we have is not a thing, as you well know. So Peter goes on, and Peter said to him, silver and gold, listen, I don't have, but what I do have, I give you. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, walk. So the story goes on. It says, taking him by the right hand, he helped him up, and instantly the man's feet and ankles became strong, and he jumped to his feet and began to walk. So he had a miracle. This is incredible. This guy who'd been lame from birth, all of a sudden he had a personal experience with the reality of Jesus. He could walk. He went with them into the temple courts, walking and jumping and praising God. And it goes on. It says, when all the people saw him, right, can you imagine what's happening to their vision now? They're like, what is going on? They recognized him as the same man who used to sit begging at the temple gate. Can I tell you what's going to happen in years to come? People are going to see Nambour and be like, what happened to this town? Like, what happened to this community? Why is everything different here now? You'll be able to say, haha, I was there. Right, when this place where everyone was talking this, that, and the other about it, I dug deep, we gave generously, we prayed passionately, we loved deeply, and we did our bit to bring more of the kingdom of God to Nambour. People are like, why is this place so full of life and so full of hope and so full of answers? And you can say, it was Jesus. And they were all filled with wonder and amazement of what had happened to him. The people are like, I can't believe this. And then Peter goes on to say in the next verse, he's all the people blown away. And he says, fellow Israelites, why does this surprise you? And why do you stare at us? Now, I find this interesting because he literally just said to the man, what did he say to him? Look at us. And now he says, why are you staring at us? So it began with, hey, look this way. And then he's like, stop looking this way. Why are you staring at us as if by our own power or godliness? So hear me, right? Yes, we're building a building. There's a chance for our community to say, for us to say to our community, look this way and we love you. But when they do look this way, they're like, no, don't look this way. Stop staring at us, right? As if by our own power, or our own generosity, our own uprightness, that of somehow we're the saviors of the Sunshine Coast. Like, don't look at us. He goes on in the next few verses later. He says, it is by faith in the name of Jesus that this man, whom you see and know, was made strong. It is Jesus' name, and through faith in that name that comes through him, that has completely healed him, as you can all see. So in other words, I love how this works, and this is our pitch and where I'll land today. Peter's like, here's this guy who's broken, and he's like, look at us. He looked at them. The guy got to experience Jesus, and all the people are like, this is amazing. Look at the change. And Peter's like, don't look at us. Look at Jesus. Look at us. Don't look at us. Look at Jesus. Look at us. Don't look at us. Look at Jesus. So our vision will always say, look at us. Why do you stare at us? Look at Jesus. And so today, guys, we get to do something that says to our community, hey, we aren't perfect, but still, look at us. Give us your attention. We're serious about what we believe. We're not faking this. We don't just hide in our buildings and sing songs together and then go home and forget all about it. Like, look this way. This means something to us. God has so changed our lives that here we are with whatever resource we've got. And we want to bless this city. We want to bless this community. We want to bless the next generation. So look this way. But then, hey, don't look at us. This is all about the hope that is only found through Jesus Christ. And you know, many years ago, over 40 years ago, a group of people right here on this, I don't even think that we're underground right now where we are. This is all dug out. Before this was all dug out, a group of people just like you and I in the 70s looked out over this city, and God gave them a vision for the future, and it caused them to be generous and to give and to start a church. They built this incredible facility for us, and you think over the decades, all the amazing ministry and impact and life-changing things that have taken place within this campus, and they gave towards it. It was their chance, and we're stoked that we get to sit in the legacy of what a generation before us gave into and built. And then a few years after that, they dreamt about creating an educational environment for the next generation, and they went busy building a school, and still to this day, many decades later, here we are still being generous and building new environments that are saying to the next generation, God is so good, and you can trust him. And we're going to keep creating environments that let you know that God is alive. And as you trust him, he's going to turn your life around. And so, again, you know, next generation comes through, and we have this incredible facility of a school here that this all got built by people way before us and believe something great. And I am so challenged by that, to not just sit there and go, good on them. But Suncoast Church, right now, today, is our time for us to give generously towards something and to build something that is not for you, it's not for me. And so that not only would the world know that God is for them, but so generations to come will be able to have a place and a space right in the heart of the mess of our city that ministry can flow from, that opportunity to practically love our city can be unhindered, that people can practically engage with ministry right in the cold face of our society, to let people know that this love of Jesus is so real that it causes us to make a practical difference in people's lives. And in 40 years' time, people are going to talk about it, and they're going to dream again, and they're going to look at other creative ways of reaching the next generation. But when they look back, they're going to say to you, thank you so much for having vision. You could have easily have just kind of gone like this and wait until this season passed and things got better. But they were going to say, thank you for trusting God enough to give towards our future, to give towards this city, to give towards the next generation. Thank you for being generous. Thank you for believing, and thank you for wanting to make a difference. We've got $2 million to raise to buy this place outright, and $2 million. Next Friday, we're going to our community, all business leaders who aren't in our church, and we're asking them to donate $1 million towards the fit out, but to purchase the place is $2 million, and we're doing that as a church. And, you know, I did the numbers on, I talked about this last week, I don't mind saying this. You know, over the course of a weekend, from our Friday night to our Sunday night, all the different gatherings, we have around about 1,000 people attend just on a practical weekend. So I was like, okay, we got $2 million to raise. I was like, if every single person who just attended over a weekend was to commit just $1,000 over the course of 12 months, maybe you're like $1,000, that's like, I'm going to give way more than that. Please do, and God bless you. But I'm just kind of breaking this down. That's like $20 a week. Maybe I remember being a teenager when I was first challenged about giving something regularly that was not for me, not for my life, that's something that was bigger than me, a ministry bigger than that I'd see benefit from. And it did something to my own heart and my own faith. But I just imagine what it would do if a whole church, everyone's like, we're all giving towards this. You know, I'm not interested in, really just being honest with you, I'm not interested in us spending tons of money of paying off interest for 30 years to come. I'd much prefer to get all that money that we raise through our facility there to go straight back into the ministries there, right? And we can do that. And I've just so much faith that we haven't done anything to this magnitude. I don't remember in how long as a church. This is a lot of money, but I totally trust at the end of it, just the same way it happened in Nehemiah's day, people would look and be like, that was done with the help of our God. God did that. And so today we're going to do, our team's going to play for us. And on your seat there, you've got one of these, and you're going to have a few minutes now where you can, if you haven't already, prayerfully consider what you want to contribute towards this. There's a QR code that you can scan with your phone that'll take you straight towards a giving page where you can give straight on that. Or if you're not prepared yet, or today kind of ambushed you and you're like, I ain't giving that much. You're like, I don't know what I'm going to do now. I've got to think about this. You can take this home with you and you can pray on it. In fact, I recommend everyone take this home just so you can keep it on your fridge and continue to pray over this. Or maybe you don't want to do it on your phone and you just want to kind of fill out what you want to do. You can put your details on there and there's a kind of a giving box at the back so you can put this in. However you do it, all the options are there for you. But this is our chance to practically get real about this. So our team's going to play just for a few moments and then we'll stand together and pray over this. So this is your moment now to consider, to give, to contribute, and to pray. Thanks, guys.